Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I wanted to talk about spirituality and this concept of instead of growing up, growing down. It's a concept that was introduced to me in a YouTube speaker meeting that I listened to this morning. I went to my meetings this morning and I had a little bit of a lack of inspiration. I'm not going to lie. I know that's pretty crazy. Rachel, not inspired. I didn't grab a hold of anything that I heard in this morning's meetings. But so I decided to go online and seek inspiration. And that's what I do because I'm sober. When I was drinking, I was seeking reasons to drink. I was seeking reasons to get even more depressed. I was seeking the lowest depth I could reach. So I went online and I typed in spiritual axiom, I think was my search term. And I found a speaker meeting, and the speaker went by the name of Tim B. So the video, I just listened, obviously, but it said that it was like 2.5 hours long or something like that. I did not listen for 2.5 hours. I don't have that kind of time. I'm kidding. I totally have that kind of time, but I didn't feel like it. So I listened for maybe about a half an hour and I got some inspiration, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. So I did hear a few things this morning that got me headed in a direction, but I needed more. So some of the things that I heard this morning were, are you seeing your situation that you're in as a means for God to accomplish his will in your life? And that is from As Bill Sees It. That book the reading was about 12 stepping, but that really stood out to me as something that I'm trying to focus on in recovery. Whatever situation I'm in, I'm trying very much to flip it into not for me, but this is just the means to an end. And that end is everything is okay. That's always the end. Everything is already okay, you know? So another thing that what came up this morning was, rather than stopping old behavior, focusing or embracing new behavior. And that, I think, is the difference between looking at your situation as a hopeless one to looking at your situation as one that you can find hope. And it reminds me of early on in this podcast last year when I was really searching for hope. I was hopeless. I felt absolutely hopeless. I felt like, as I said yesterday, like everything had come to an end. Everything I had worked for had come to an end, and I felt hopeless. That's how I felt when I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking too. I felt like everything fun was over. Like I was never going to have fun again. I was never going to enjoy anything again. It just continues to baffle me how identical this journey has been for me in sobriety and stroke recovery, like just approaching these same crossroads, having these same epiphanies, and what I needed to do in sobriety is I needed to stop old behaviors, but I didn't just try to stop drinking. I didn't just try to stop being a bitch to people. What I did was I focused on a new way of life, and I focused on practicing the steps. The steps gave me tools so that I can nurture my relationships instead of steal from my relationships, harm my relationships. And that was a way of embracing a new behavior rather than focusing on stopping the old behavior. And this was a big challenge for me. It still is sometimes, but it's getting a whole lot easier. Where in stroke recovery, I was focused on I have to stop being on the computer. I know that sounds ridiculous, but in this day and age, like everybody communicates through digital means. Everybody gets what they need, like materially. I think a lot of Maslow's hierarchy of needs um, in the middle, I mean, I have to go back and look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but um, we get many of them digitally, like feeling like you're a part of a community, connecting with your family. All of that stuff is digital. And my purpose, because I talked about yesterday, my purpose was my job was, I got my purpose from my job, and my job was online. So having to stop this old behavior of really being semi-addicted to being on digital devices. And I know that I'm not the only one. I had to stop it. But instead of just stopping being on digital devices, what I needed to do was embrace a new way of life. Same as sobriety, I had to start finding offline stuff that gave me joy and peace and hope. And I have slowly, I don't know if it's slowly or quickly, I have a lot of hobbies now, like a lot of hobbies. I just picked up another hobby last night. We're seeing if I'm giving it a try. We'll see if I like it. The new hobby, I'm gonna take a side path here for a second. My sister was kind enough to enter me in an auction in Berryville, and it was an auction for some jewelry. What I wanted was brooches. So back in the day, kids, people used to wear brooches. Um, and it was almost like we today wear necklaces. They would wear brooches, and I find them to be just beautiful, and so unique. Like they're all so unique. So what I wanted to do, or what I am doing, is I have this mannequin that is covered by this like French fabric, off-white and black. You might know what I'm talking about. It's got like the Eiffel Tower on it and stuff. So this mannequin, I wanted to create a dress of brooches on the mannequin, just to be able to look at. And I want to actually have some sort of focal light on it so that they shimmer a little bit. So the light is later. We'll see if I can get that to work. But right now, I'm trying to collect brooches. So my sister had the great idea of entering me into this auction, and I won. So $20, I got this whole box of brooches, and inside it, there was also a bunch of other jewelry. A lot of it was kind of gross looking, The brooches were all really, really pretty. But there was another box that I got for $5. She just threw me in for that, and I got that box too. And that was the more of the gross one. So in that box, um, there was a necklace that was like made of wooden beads, and it was really tacky looking. So I ordered some jewelry making tools, just a cheap little bag of beginners jewelry making tools. And I took the necklace apart and put all of the beads into their own, like I sorted the beads. And then I made a bracelet out of one of the colors of beads. So it's dark wood beads, and they're kind of big, they're larger. And I made a bracelet out of it last night and some matching earrings with one of the beads. And I sent it to my friend, and she was like, "There you go, being good at everything again." And I was like, "You are really good for my ego." So I've always wanted one of these really big bead wooden bracelets. And so I made one. And that was really fun. So I'm thinking that maybe this is a new hobby that I might give a try. I mean, I like having this huge assortment of hobbies so that when I'm in any different mood, I can pick up these different hobbies. Candle making is is the next one. I'm going to make candles for some folks for Christmas, and they're going to be scented and everything. So I haven't tried it yet, but I have the candle, the wax warmer and everything. So anyway, back to the topic. That is how I'm embracing new behavior. And you can tell by listening to me over the past year and a half that I've been doing this podcast, how hopeful I have become, how more full of joy and excitement that I've become. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, because I wanted to record the change. Because I had 100% confidence, because I've been through sobriety. I had 100% confidence that I was going to get to the other side of the situation that I was in when I left my job, and having that just excruciating pain in my head. I didn't know if I was going to continue to have a headache, which I do, but I didn't know what was going to happen. But what I did know is that I was going to go through it, and I knew that I was going to do it. I guess in an inspirational way. Does that sound like I'm cocky? Maybe, maybe. I just know that if I was able to get sober, if I was able to be knocking on death's door, and I was able to get sober and joyful and serene, that I was going to get through this too. And I wanted to record it so it could be an example for other people that might be struggling. So what I've done is in stroke recovery is very much the same as what I did in sobriety. Sorry, I'm missing my words. Okay, so in the same meeting, the second meeting, somebody was talking about spiritual axiom. And I've heard that term, spiritual axiom, a bunch, and I didn't know what it meant, and I never cared to look it up. But what somebody read was that spiritual axiom means that whenever we are disturbed, something is wrong with us. So rather than blaming others, something is wrong with us. And that's something that I've learned in the program, is that if I'm disturbed by somebody else's behavior, sure, whatever they're doing may be morally wrong. So they may be doing something hurtful or harmful. it's not my business what they're doing. Um, what matters is how I'm reacting to it. I need to focus inward, and I need to heal me, because I can't change people. I can change how I react to people. So that is what was read in the morning meeting about what spiritual axiom means. And as I was thinking about it, I'm like, that was about as far as that inspiration went with spiritual axiom. And that's why I went online to listen to more inspiration about spiritual axiom. Um, what I was thinking, though, is that the more that I practice these ideas about when somebody pisses me off, I need to look inward instead of casting blame or hate or anything like that. The more I practice doing that, the easier it gets. And so then here we go. I get to the point where I'm listening to this YouTube video today, and he's talking about this idea of growing down instead of growing up. So what I've been focused on when I got sober, and I learned that when we start drinking alcoholically, we stop growing. That's what I've heard over this past 8.5 years. And what this guy is suggesting is that we don't have to grow up when we get sober. We need to grow down. So what does that mean? I thought, I don't know about that, because what I actually need is to learn the social skills that I didn't learn when I was drinking in my teens, my 20s, my 30s, and my early 40s. So I need to grow up. But what he started talking about made a lot of sense to me, and I'm going to see if I can articulate it in my own way. So when I started drinking, I no, let's rewind. As a kid, we are trusting of people, right? Because we don't know any better. We are honest about how we feel because we don't know how to not be. We suck at hiding. If we play hide and go seek, we suck at it. Like kids playing hide and go seek, they like hide, hide behind something where they don't even fit behind it. Because it's almost like when we're a little baby, um, we can just cover our eyes and think that nobody can see us. Like that's the naivety, the innocence of being a child. It is these things that go against that pureness that is learned. So as I was getting older, I started learning that I can't trust everybody. I learned that if I'm totally honest, I'm going to get in trouble. I learned that if I can hide myself a little better, nobody can see me. Nobody can find me. And quite honestly, people will forget if I hide long enough, right? Out of sight, out of mind. These things are learned as we grow up. What we learn is how to play games with truth, right? Um, Early on, when we're really young, we only know truth, how to be true. And as we get older, from observing other people and interacting with other people, we learn how to play games with truth. So when I was growing up, I don't remember it clearly, but my brother and I are 4 years apart. And we would pull each other's hair. I don't know how my mom stayed sane, honestly, but we would argue. We would, even not physically fight. The only thing we'd ever do is pull each other's hair. Once in a while, I may try to hit him or something, but I was so tiny it didn't bother him. Um, if one of us did something wrong, or like he, we're arguing, we'll yell out, "Mom, my brother hit me." I say his name, obviously, but I don't say names here. So he hit me. And she's like, "Brother, stop hitting her," And then I look at him and I'm like, heh heh, because I just played a game with the truth. And then my brother says, "Mom, I didn't hit her." And then by then, mom's usually like, "Just shut up so I can make dinner." She would never say that, but um, we're playing games with the truth. And how that morphs as I'm growing up is startling, you know? Um, that's where it began. That's where it began, where I blamed things on other people. I blamed things on my brother. Um, I learned that when something was wrong, I can blame other people. It's not my fault. When something was wrong, something's wrong with you, you know? I think that if I look at this learned behavior, but prior to the learned behavior, if I look at it from the child to like mid, mid, I don't know, schooling years, that child was more spiritual than the kid that is in their early teens, or early double digits. I can look at it from that perspective if I compare it to my sobriety program, because a lot of the things that my sobriety program is teaching me is how to be that little girl again, how to be more honest, um, how to not be able to do anything but tell the truth, um, how to trust people. I don't want to hide anymore. When I was drinking at the end of my drinking days, I perfected hiding. Um, I isolated so much that nobody could find me, because I was me, the little girl in me was stuffed so deep inside of me that she was hidden from everyone. And there is no way I was going to let her out. And that is just, it makes me sad, honestly. It puts a lump in my throat to think about how we start out so innocent and spiritual, so true. And we become capable of hurting ourselves to a degree that we have to find some sort of self-medication to save us from ourselves, you know? Um, Before I got to that point where I had stuffed myself deep inside of me, I had gotten to this point when I was drinking and I was going out to bars and I was hanging out with friends, like it was the opposite. My ego had gotten so big and it was filled with alcohol. Um, there was a point, and I don't know what point it happened, where that gigantic ego just disappeared and got sucked right into the depths of me. I don't know when that happened, but I feel very much like that was the beginning of the end for me. Um, Something that the speaker brought up today was the idea that when things get old, we replace them. And there's something my mom says. I don't hear her say it a lot anymore, but she has said it before, quite a bit. And that is that she felt invisible. As she got older, she felt invisible. And I can relate to that. Okay. If I were to say that to her, which she might be listening to this, so hi, Mom. Um, if I were to say I can relate to that, she's probably would respond with, just wait. Just wait until you're 70. I'm 50. But I can, because when I was younger, I used to love to be like the center of attention, that's what Rachel liked to be. I like to be a drama queen. I like to be all into the latest fashion. I still do. I love to have like the best haircuts and everything. And I loved attention. And I can tell as I get older that it's harder to get that attention. And honestly, if you want that kind of attention as an adult, it doesn't come across very well. People don't want to be around other people that are just fighting for attention. It's a little off-putting. Um, but this idea of how the guy said like to get we like to replace things that get old. So, like the best thing I can think of, for example, are sheet pans. So, my husband and I have this thing about sheet pans. Before I met him, I had these sheet pans under the stove, in the drawer under the oven. I had these sheet pans. And I think when I first met him, I was gonna make something and I pulled out a sheet pan and he was like, "What the?" I was like, "What?" And he was like, "That sheet pan is disgusting. It's like all rusty and gooky." Yes, I cleaned it, but there's only so much that you can clean a 20-year-old sheet pan, So now when we have different kitchen items that are getting old, maybe the non-stick has been chipped off or something like that. Even if it has just a scratch on it, I mean, not not that little, but when our pots and pans and stuff get old, we replace them. And that's what I mean by that. But if you run across some people who don't do that, so somebody may keep their I don't know, utensils or something, and the utensils are 40 years old, 50 years old. They're keeping these utensils. And you ask them, why don't you replace those utensils? And the person responds and says, it's because they have character, right? So that's what happens to us. When we get old, and you be the judge of what old is, but as we get older, we have these experiences. And what they do is they add character. And what the same thing that adds character also takes away our spirituality. So these utensils that very much have character, you really have to take care of them a whole lot more to make sure that they're safe to eat with. You know, this character that we build through all of our experiences, we need to increase our self-care at the same ratio as we build our character. Because if we don't, it gets very dangerous. That's how I see how I have aged. And it started early. As soon as I started building character, I started drinking. And when I started drinking, I was not practicing self-care. And I became a danger to myself. Right? That makes sense for me. So, how do we grow down when we have all this character? How do I make those old utensils that have a lot of character? How do I bring them back to life and make them not uh, dangerous to eat with? Or how do I give them a little extra care in order to make sure that their quality is up to par, even though they're old? For me, you polish them. You know, you can't just wash them. You have to also polish them. And those are pretty, those old utensils. I had some of my grandmother's. I actually have some of my grandmother's. They're really, really pretty, but I can't just use them and stick them in the dishwasher and then put them in the drawer. Like, I have to polish them. That's what I see my sobriety program as. It's polish. It's allowing me to kind of scrape off some of that stuff that was inhibiting me from being able to have healthy relationships. It's helping it's allowing me to be able to get up in the morning without having all of this gunk on me. But I have to practice it all day, every day. I have to polish my character all day, every day. And that has begun to return me back to be able to take care of that little girl. Like, it has taken some hard work to get down to the foundation of who I am. And now that I'm there, now that I can see that little girl and I can remember what it was like to be honest, and I can remember what it's like to be true. Um, I can remember what it's like to trust people before I have a reason not to trust them. You know, I had begun not trusting anybody. Um, I had, I just hid. I hid from everything. And when I stopped drinking, because that was also an attempt at hiding myself, I had to learn how to stand there. You know, I had to learn how to get comfortable in my own skin. And I remember being comfortable in my skin when I was a kid. So I had to learn how to do that again. But it took a lot of chipping away. And I don't like using past tense because I have a whole life, a whole half a life still to go. And I wanna keep taking care of the little girl. Um, when I just about before I stopped listening to the YouTube video, he said that he equates spirituality to home. Seeking spirituality means that you want to go home. And that's what I think about when I think of my concept of God. I think about being home when I was a little girl. That's where it all intersects for me. Um, Spirituality is that moment, that snapshot when I was a little girl. That's when I had all of my spirituality before I learned it. I learned it away, you know? I feel like the world broke me. That's what it feels like. And I don't want other people to feel that way. And that's why I talk about it. So that's what I got. You never know when I'm going to cry. I haven't cried in a long time on these episodes, but I feel I feel like all of that really came out in a very honest way. Um, and so I feel good about that. It's not tears of sadness. Maybe it is a little bit. But it's also tears of hope because I'm not broken anymore. Um, if you feel broken, if you feel like the world broke you, you don't have to stay broken. That we all have the ability to heal. And I want to leave you with that. So thanks for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.